Recently, Ro Khanna, a lawmaker Ro Khanna, a Democrat, of course, and a Justice Democrat at that, wanted to put forth a bill in the House that would end the US involvement in the war in Yemen. Now, this is something that people are finally paying attention to following the Saudi Crown Prince ordering for the murder of a Washington Post journalist, Jamal Khashoggi. All of a sudden, journalists are paying attention to what Saudi Arabia is doing in Yemen, how the United States is involved. And so Representative Ro Khanna thought this is the perfect time to put forth a bill to end US involvement in Yemen. Well, there were 5 Democrats who actually helped Republicans block that bill. And one of those Democrats was Representative Dutch Ruppersberger. And TYT Investigates wanted to find out what his motivations were. And so they followed the money. And where do you think the money came from? I'll tell you. So again, he was one of 5 Democrats who joined the majority of House Republicans to block debate on the war in Yemen. And it turns out he had met with Saudi officials and foreign agents representing them on numerous occasions. In one instance, shortly after the war began, his office met with a senior Saudi embassy official to discuss the war. Now, meeting with Saudi officials doesn't necessarily mean anything, but let me give you some more information. He also accepted significant political contributions from firms representing Saudi Arabia and its coalition allies in the war. Justice Department records reviewed by TYT show. Okay, so Representative Ro Khanna had introduced a bill to end US backing of Saudi Arabia and Yemen, and Ruppersberger's vote against even debating the bill drew ire from progressives seeking an end to US participation in the war, which has driven Yemen to the brink of mass famine. Now, the motion to actually debate Khanna's bill or resolution failed with a razor-thin margin of 206 to 203. With Ruppersberger and 4 other Democrats providing Republicans the vote that they needed to kill it. Okay, so Cenk, do you want to jump in before I get into the numbers?
This is a great story, and we're going to put the link down below. If we do the show live 6 to 8 p.m. every weekday on tyt.com. But if you're watching this later on YouTube or Facebook, link to the article will be in the description box. We put all the links in the description box. And so I want you to read the whole thing because Ken did a wonderful job here. One of the things that I loved about the article is finding out how foreign governments funnel money to our politicians. So they can't legally give to politicians, that's illegal.
Directly give.
They can't directly give to them. So what do? They hire law firms and sometimes lobbying firms, and they pay them millions of dollars, and then those firms give to the politicians. Well, that's just giving the money to them. It's an obvious money laundering operation. DLA Piper did that in this case for Ruppersberger in Saudi Arabia, and so did Glover Park. And so it's not complicated. And I was gonna say, did you think we wouldn't catch on to you? But the answer is yes, of course they thought that, because almost no one else bothers to investigate this stuff. They think it's, well, normal. Of course, the Saudis will funnel money to you and then you'll vote with the Saudis whenever they need it. Ruppersberger's been voting with them for a number of years on super important legislation that we'll tell you about. And it turns out he's been getting money funneled to them through these different American firms. So, but nobody thinks that's unnormal. Like and in fact, the rest of the media in Washington will say, are you charging him with corruption?
Yes.
Yes, yes we are, yes.
It's pretty clear,
yes.
It's pretty clear. I mean, why else would you vote against debating a resolution like that, right? Again, that was a razor thin margin, against debating Ro Khanna's resolution.
No, he's the one who killed it.
Yeah.
He's the one who killed it, along with those 5 Democrats joining the Republicans. And a 206, 203 vote clearly made the difference. And look, and if it was just one vote, then they attach it to the farm bill and they claim, oh, Saudi Arabia, oh, that was in the bill? And Yemen? Oh no, we were voting on the farm thing. Oh, well, are you incompetent? You didn't know both parts were in there? You knew both parts were in there. And you also know that if that vote succeeded and we struck it down, the aid to Yemen, they would reintroduce the farm bill. It's not like they're like, oh no, we're done with it.
Right.
Okay, screw the farmers. No, they'd reintroduce it, you know that. But he's used to dealing with schmucks on cable news who either don't care or cover for him. And so what is MSNBC gonna do a story about a Democrat who's corrupt? Never, never, right? So God bless TYT Investigates. But it's not just one time. Let me give you a couple of other instances. So in 2016, he also voted against an amendment that would have banned the transfer of US manufactured cluster bombs to Saudi Arabia. He was one of 16 people who did that. Cluster bombs are illegal under international law. We have not signed that law here in the US, and we're in a violation of those treaties as well. But he wanted to send cluster bombs to Saudi Arabia because Saudi Arabia is so responsible. That'd be the right way to go too, right? But we're not done yet. In 2016, there was a bill to let 9/11 victims' families sue Saudi Arabia. Once again, one of the few Democrats that stood up was Ruppersberger for Saudi Arabia and defending their rights. Just a wild coincidence that he happens to get money laundered into him from these firms here in America that got millions of dollars to represent Saudi Arabia and, by the way, their ally, United Arab Emirates. Okay, if you're a sucker or a TV pundit, you will think that's a coincidence. We do not think that's a coincidence.
So TYT Investigates lists all the different campaign contributions or donations Ruppersberger received from lobbying groups that are tied to Saudi Arabia. I'm just gonna give you a few, but you should read the full piece to get a sense of how much money he's made. Now, on February 8th of 2016, DLA Piper, which again is one of those lobbying firms that is receiving money from Saudi Arabia, gave $3,500 to Ruppersberger for Congress committee. In 2016, Ruppersberger was actually the top recipient of campaign contributions from DLA Piper's PAC. Also on October 27th of 2016, DLA Piper's PAC contributed $2,700 to him. In the same filing, the firm reported having received more than $1.8 million from the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia Ministry of Foreign Affairs. So that's where the lobbying firm gets their money from, and then the lobbying firm essentially does campaign donations for Ruppersberger as long as he plays ball, and he has been playing ball. Now, let's fast forward to what he had to say in response to this investigative piece. Now, there were a series of tweets that he put out there, and he of course tweeted Ken Klippenstein, who is the reporter who broke this story. And I want to give you a few of his responses. He says, I wouldn't be exercising my oversight responsibilities if I didn't meet with them, meaning meeting with the Saudis. Meeting with does not mean supporting. In fact, I made Saudi Arabia pretty mad when I supported the Iran deal and when I voted to sunset AUMF last year.
Yeah, meeting with does not mean supporting. Voting with them does mean supporting. We just gave you 3 clear votes where you were one of the very few Democrats who voted with Saudi Arabia. Just because you voted on some ancillary issues related, or not even necessarily even that directly related to Saudi Arabia, doesn't mean that you didn't vote for them on many other occasions. Look, TYT Investigates does objective reporting. What they're doing is they're just showing the facts. The analysis is ours, okay? So they're not saying he's corrupt. They're just saying he took this money from these firms. These firms got millions of dollars from Saudi Arabia. And he voted with Saudi Arabia on these important legislations. Okay, I'm connecting the dots. You're connecting the dots because the dots are incredibly clear. Right.
He also tweets, Ken's right on this. Should have been more vocal in my concerns regarding the situation in Yemen. We all make mistakes, but this vote was about the farm bill.
Nonsense, total nonsense. Okay, that's not Ken responding, Ken's a reporter. Okay, that's me responding. I don't believe you. I believe you are systematically corrupt, as a lot of the politicians in Washington are. And it's not a coincidence that in the same year, at around the same time, you meet with the Saudis, you get money funneled to you through these firms from the Saudis, and then you vote with the Saudis. I mean, look, I know your whole life you've dealt with credulous media who go, oh yes, sir, you're an official congressman, sir. It is an honor to meet you, sir. How would you like me to write the positive article about you, sir? But that's not what we do here. So, of course you should be primaried. That's also my opinion. All 5 Democrats who voted with the Republicans to continue that brutal war in Yemen, 85,000 children have already starved to death. Every day more starved to death. 5 million are risk, not of being bombed to death, of starving to death because the Saudis have blocked the port. They can't get food, they can't get medicine. And Ruppersberger and other people like Colin Peterson voted with the Republicans. And look at how cheap they were bought. 2,700 here, 3,500 there. Jesus Christ, man. Colin Peterson in some ways was worse. At least Ruppelsberger talked to Ken and tried to at least give some justification. Colin Peterson, a Democrat, when asked about, hey, Yemen was in that bill, what are your policy position on the war in Yemen? He said, I don't know a damn thing about it. How is that for flippant? That's supposed to be a US congressman.